auditions are so hard because I think most people are usually are themselves in relation to someone else. And so it worked as soon as like Lucy and me and Jess and Alex kind of like started rehearsing it. And then when Destiny came on as well, the same thing, and talking to Charlie and everyone, then suddenly it was like, okay, this character is starting to make sense because of the collaboration and because of a deeper understanding of what the story needed.
As we're lucky to have so many of the team from the end of the fucking world joining us today, we've split the session into 2 parts. So please welcome our first speakers, who are Charlie Covell, the writer, and of course a breakthrough Brit. Welcome, Charlie.
Hey.
Hello. Lucy Forbes, who's the director of episodes 1 to 4 of series 2. Hi, Lucy.
Hello.
Naomi Ackie, who is the actor, of course, who played Bonnie and was nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the BAFTA Awards. Welcome, Naomi. Or have you got your audio on, Naomi? Yes.
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Good. Just checking. Just checking. Carmel Cochran, the casting director. Hi, Carmel. Hello. And Ed Macdonald, exec producer. Hi, Ed.
Hello there.
Hello. Right, now then, let's start, Charlie, by, I guess, the obvious question, talking about, first of all, congratulations on getting the series itself nominated for a second time for a BAFTA. I remember when you talked about series 1, you said you weren't expecting it to be such a huge thing. You felt it was kind of like quite a small, you know, indie-ish series, and now this is your second time round for series 2. How did you feel when you heard that you've been nominated, the show had been nominated, and what level of surprise was there from you for that?
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a real shock, a nice shock, but it was, you know, a huge surprise, I think. But you know, we had an amazing team second time round as well, so I'm thrilled, and yeah, really delighted for Naomi as well.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Naomi. I guess the main difference between series 1 and 2, I mean, it started out as the comic strip, graphic novel, etc. Then there was a short made, wasn't there? Then series 1, but now series 2 came along, and you've run out of source material. So did you know what you wanted to do with that second series as soon as you were working on series 1, or did that come gently and gradually, or did you have a kind of firm idea of what you wanted to do?
It took quite a long time. I think, to be perfectly honest, I think we've said this before. I say we as in us, not the royal we. Like, you know, I think I didn't think there would be a second series because, you know, like you said, we thought we were making this tiny thing. We thought about 12 people would watch it, and the end was ambiguous, but I suppose possibly not ambiguous in the sense that you had the graphic novel it was based on. And when we were asked if we wanted to do a second season, we talked about it for quite a long time because we didn't want to just say yes, you know, without knowing what we wanted to do. And it took a long time. It took the best part of, what was it? I think, Ed, it was another 2 years between the first and the second.
Yeah.
And a lot of tears and sweat and yeah, but the thing that kind of unlocked it, I think, for us was that, you know, it was really important to, it sounds really heavy, but I think with, you know, the first series, thematically it is quite a dark show, even though it's funny, but you know, the themes we deal with as in the graphic novel are quite serious ones, and I think it felt that we had to deal with what had happened to Alyssa and James to do the story justice. And so thinking about that was important and unlocked where we were going to go in the second series. And then also the character of Bonnie was key to kicking off this new story. And Bonnie was actually a character that we based on one of Chuck's characters from the graphic novel. So Bonnie was always rooted to the source material. And so it felt like an authentic continuation of Chuck's kind of world, if that makes sense.
You did take I would say, the bold decision to open series 2 with the episode almost entirely about Bonnie and introducing us to her and her world. Was that always on the cards for you, or did you think maybe you should kind of weave in the older characters that we knew from series 1 as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think we always knew we wanted a standalone episode just about Bonnie, and I think at one point we thought maybe it would come in episode 3 or 4. And then I think we were excited with the idea of starting off the series with a totally new character. And then as soon as we cast Naomi, we were like, well, we definitely should, because, you know, she's just completely extraordinary. This performance is amazing. Lucy directed this brilliant episode. And it was like, if there had ever been any doubt that it was wrong to start off with that episode, as soon as we saw the kind of rushes from the first day, it was like, obviously that's what we're going to do. So
Ed and Lucy, were you fully behind the idea to bring Naomi's character in from the start and make that first episode such a bold departure, in a sense, in terms of bringing in the new character and the new story?
Yeah, I think. Well, I'll let Lucy speak for herself in a second, but I think we, at the development stage of it, the episode moved around a bit. But I think it only ever moved around because we were slightly second guessing ourselves, and it felt like maybe we were. It would have been the sort of conventional thing to do to sort of, or safer thing to do, to push it back into the, you know, open on Alex and Jess, James and Alyssa, bringing back the characters that we sort of know and love. But I think we just kept coming back to it being a sort of itch we wanted to scratch, and it being a sort of braver, more interesting, more dynamic and more surprising opening to the second series. So then I think when, and yet still kind of weirdly rooted and grounded in material, the source material, and also elements of the first series. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, Lucy, I don't know how what you felt coming to the first few scripts, but, you know, for us, that was just sort of the way it was.
I mean, I don't think there was ever really, and I know we were umming and ahhing it, but I think once we made the decision, it was a really exciting decision that was made. And, you know, the big challenge was making a show that everyone really knew and loved and had a really strong identity, and making that identity across bring that identity, and making an episode without the sort of heart of the show, without Jess, without Alyssa and James, feel like the show. And that was the biggest challenge. And for me, the sort of one of the most enjoyable things about the show is sort of, you know, all those tiny decisions, all those layers of choices to make it feel like the show. It was, you know, constantly going, does this feel like the show? Does this feel like the show? Is this the show? You know, and it was sort of really enjoyable. It was just sort of, you know, really breaking down the first series and then building it back up again, and making sure, you know, we wrote a bunch of rules and really, really stuck to them to make sure the show felt the show. And then we had the amazing Naomi, who just brought this most sort of powerful, subtle, amazing performance, and sort of, you know, was so amazing right from the get-go that, you know, it was definitely the right decision to make. And it was so exciting, you know, seeing that story slowly come together, played out of the first episode. You know, it was thrilling.
It was definitely thrilling to watch as well. And Carmel, can I come to you in terms of when you read about the character of Bonnie? How did you go about casting that? This kind of incredibly strong character. How did you go about it?
I can't remember if I'd seen Naomi in it. So Naomi had auditioned for St. Maud, a film that we did. And I can't remember if it was before that or, and I'd watched Lady Macbeth, and I remember watching it. And then I think Charlie had messaged and said, oh, this is the concept. And straight away I was like, Naomi Ackie, kind of from day one. And incidentally, that was kind of a similar thing to what happened on the pilot, you know, pre-Alex. I'd met Dom and Jonathan in Soho, and they pitched the idea, and I'd said, oh, well, the character's Jess. So I guess I've just got some weird sixth sense that works.
And Naomi, let's bring you in. What was the process like for you when you were sent the script and you were approached about the character? What was your initial thought?
It took a second, I think, of like Carmel and Lucy in the audition to figure out what Bonnie needed, like how was she of service to the story. And that was always interesting because it felt like I was like slightly adjusting the character in relation to the people around her. And what I figured out with Bonnie was that the way to figure her out was in relation to other people first, and then work inwards to find her emotional world. So it kind of, like many of like auditions are so hard because I think most people are usually are themselves in relation to someone else. And so it worked as soon as like Lucy and me and Jess and Alex kind of like started rehearsing it. And then when Destiny came on as well, the same thing, and talking to Charlie and everyone, then suddenly it was like, okay, this character is starting to make sense because of the collaboration and because of a deeper understanding of what the story needed.
And did you watch series 1, and did you take, you know, in terms of the performances from mainly from the leads in series 1, and think influence how you're going to do it to some extent?
Yeah, totally. Because it's like, it's one of the best shows ever because it's so clear. Like, you know the tone, like you can read it. And so like me as an actor, I was like, oh, I understand that. Like, I might not necessarily know how to mimic it, but I knew what that thing was. And so that was a really good foundation for me to be like, okay, the first keywords for me were like, okay, it's quite deadpan humor, but the humor is like really grounded in what's real, not trying to make anyone laugh. Characters who are okay with being unlikable. So like all of these things were popping around in my head. And then it was just about like consolidating that into every given scene I was given and seeing how we could play with it and have a bit of fun within the rules we made for ourselves.